Well, thanks everybody for joining us. We have a very exciting event for us today. We're going to be talking about architecture in motion. We're going to be talking about one of Chaos's new products that I am personally very excited about, and we have a great group of people here with us today. We'll start off with doing some introductions. Anna, looks like you're on the top left. You want to go first?
Yeah, hi everyone. My name's Anna. I'm one of the product managers behind our newest product, Chaos Envision. And I'm also an architect. And I've been with Chaos for 9 years now.
It's been that long already?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. And we've known each other for close to about 9 years, right? 8, 9 years?
No, I think we've known each other for like 6 years now.
So, yeah, feels like so much longer.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you so much for being here. Yeah, it's gonna be really cool to hear how everything came about with Envision and kind of the history about it. So really looking forward to what you have to share with us today.
Well,
Callie, you're right next to.
Thank you, Josh. Hi, everyone. My name is Kalina, or Kali, as everyone calls me. I've been with Chaos for 7 years, so a bit shorter than Annie. And I am taking care of our communities together with wonderful individuals such as Tio, who is in the background and helping us to power this show and stream it to you. Thank you, Josh. Passing the floor to the next one.
All right. Phil, looks like you're next.
Hi, everyone. I'm Phil Reed. Probably most of you might know me from Revit and later Autodesk, and I've been working with the Enscape team since summer of 2015 and got to come in the side door with the big Chaos team now. So I look after a lot of Enscape, a lot of Revit, a lot of SketchUp.
Yeah. Phil, always love talking to you. I always learn something every time I talk to you. Yeah. Something about Revit, at least.
Gosh, I've known you since probably 2003.
Yeah. It's been quite a while now.
Time flies. It's okay.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And Ludo, thank you so much for being here. Do you mind introducing yourself to the world?
Absolutely. Ludo Michaud. I'm a VFX Director and Associate Principal at Corgan, a nice architectural firm located around the world, but our headquarters in Dallas. I've been there for about 12 years, going on 13. And I've been in the industry for about 30 years. I started at Softimage, and I worked on movies, commercials, game trailers, game assets at some point. That was funny. I did some 3D rides, and yeah, that's a very, in a nutshell, me.
That's so awesome. Thank you so much for being here and taking time out of your busy day. I know you're extremely busy, so I really appreciate you joining us today.
No problem.
I was a big fan of Softimage too.
Me too.
So you said, do you want me to show the reel?
Yeah, absolutely. If you want to show the reel right now, it's a good, so people have an idea what the Media Lab does for Corgan.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so Chrome tab, here we go. So Media Lab, perfect. All right, let me full screen this. All right, and we'll start by sharing. Your audio good? Awesome.
Well
so
done.
Cool.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, thanks for sending it over.
If I may, Josh, I wanted to talk about
course.
Media Lab a little bit since we just saw
Yeah,
their material, if you don't mind.
absolutely.
So the Media Lab was created about 28 years ago in response to 28 years ago when the computers were having fun with the architect and stuff and getting into the world of architecture. Um, so 28 years ago, my boss, John Higgs, went ahead and created a lab. Well, it's been going for 28 years. So what we've been doing, we've been through a lot of version of the Media Lab. At some point, we were doing commercial for outside companies and stuff. But right now, what we've been focused on the last 13 years, let's talk about that more than anything else here, is doing broadcast for we do broadcast. We have a full broadcast studio with green screen and all this stuff. We have pilots, for drone footage. We have film crew. We have an editing suite and room. Actually, it's 2 rooms, and we have a full VFX team along with a graphic team. So we do pretty much anything we can do. And with pixel manipulation, we try to do it as best as we can. And we find, and one of our goals is to always tell the stories of the designers and their ideas and their plans of design. But we do that to the best and the latest technology that we can find. So anything we're looking for is always the latest and greatest. We try pretty much everything under the sun. If there's a weird technique out there, we most likely had a chance to play with it or even create it. So, but that's what the Media Lab does in big picture. So it's a lot of pixel manipulation, making things look pretty. So
I love it. That's so cool. Phil, what was your word for him? He's a pixel mastermind.
No, wizard.
He's a wizard.
Ludo's a wizard. He should just have a wizard's hat and a wizard's staff. Because it's not just the end product. As long as I've known Ludo, like he invents processes to get to the end product that I'm like, oh, that's beautiful. But it's wizard.
We need to get him scanned. Yeah. Need to get him
we
scanned.
Need to get him
and
a chaos wizard hat and this wizard staff.
Great. I can see a lot of AI images already coming out now. Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you so much for the introduction. I've been a fan of Corgan for a very long time now. Worked with you guys for a while and loved all the products love all the buildings that you guys are creating. Big fan of you guys' work. Do we want to start with kind of the history of Envision, what we're here to talk about today?
Yeah.
Right.
Maybe a brief context of the show and just because the title of the show, everyone, is Architecture in Motion, as you saw. So we will be talking about, of course, like it's quite open, and we're really inspired by the work and the knowledge of Ludo. We had a short preparation session where he blew our minds with because they're working on so many different projects. So let's briefly start with an introduction to Envision. That would be great.
Mm-hmm. Ana, would you like to kick this off?
Sure. Yeah, so how it all started, it was over 3 years ago. And basically, we've identified that there has always been, kind of a gap, because when working with Enscape, you want things to be super quick and to iterate quickly, and to have this super well-performing viewport. And at the same time, there were so many people requesting some animation capabilities, like cars that move or people that can walk on the street, and stuff like that. But we basically realized that we can't include these functionalities in a plugin, neither in Enscape nor in V-Ray, if you will. So we had to come up with a separate tool that is standalone and is able to handle even massive scenes where users, if they want to, they're also able to assemble multiple projects originating from multiple different tools. So if you, for example, have the building model created in Revit, and then you have some super cool facade, for example, that was built in Rhino, you can combine both of them in Envision and work on the final visualization and add some animated characters, create a traffic system with cars that will actually move, like their wheels will spin, and if there is a crossing, they will stop, they will wait for the pedestrians, So this kind of, advanced animation capabilities.
Yeah, and I think The biggest thing was combining multiple different file formats too, right?
Yeah.
The need to go beyond what is capable with Enscape, right?
You simply
thanks for that.
you cannot achieve this in a plugin environment. Like, you need a separate tool.
Yeah, no, I totally understand that.
Yeah, Josh, the thing is, I mean, sometimes you want stuff to stop moving around.
Right.
And the thing I like about Envision is that it's great seeing things real time as you make changes when that's what you're trying to do. But if you're a visualization specialist or you need things to stop moving and just focus on the iteration of the design, you have best of both worlds in Envision. You can see the links update if you want, or you can say, no. For what you're doing, keep moving things around, but I need things to sit still for a while.
Yeah,
so it just depends.
Absolutely. I think that's a great segue into what our initial experience with Enscape and Envision is. Like, Ludo, do you want to?
If I can jump on this one.
Absolutely.
Is that cool?
Oh, absolutely.
So first off, I'd like to make sure we understand that, as Ana explained, Enscape and Envision are two different tools, and I think they're not even in the same ballpark. They're not even playing the same park, right? Enscape is really a tool. It's an instant tool. I like to define it as another viewer to your Revit, Rhino, or SketchUp, where you have a real-time view, you have a shaded view, you have whatever pencil view, you have Enscape view, right? The difference between those guys on Enscape is now you have the choice to go and play things, and you can move the camera around, which is makes things a lot more easier for people, right? That said, it does stop at some point where you don't have that animation part, where this is where you get off of that boat and jump into the yacht of Envision, where you can get a lot more flexibility, control over the materials a lot more easier, which Enscape is giving you good stuff there. But I think what happens with Envision is the ability to focus and manipulate these things a lot easier, right? And one thing, I'm sorry, I'm kind of segue on that one too a little bit. People are asking about all the products, and well, what about this, and what about Vintage, what about Chaos, what about Corona, blah blah blah. So there's a lot of question out there. I have the privilege to know most of these tools, so I can tell you that my experience is I like that my architect have access to Enscape, so they can do what they need to do real time, get something quick. Sometimes we on our side, we go take their render, make them a little prettier, because Enscape takes you to a certain level, but it's a quick level, right? It's not the final level yet. And then when we go to Envision, this is where we have an opportunity to start emitting stuff, and still have the way I would put it is that if Enscape is closer to the architect spectrum, and the Chaos, V-Ray is closer to the 3D artist, right? So I think you have Enscape here, you have Envision here, then you have Vintage right here, and then you have V-Ray and Corona, which those two offer two different. A lot of people will say it's the same thing, but it's not, because they offer you different flexibility that gives you different control and so on and so forth. So we have to be respectful of that. So with that in mind, Envision is I would say a 60-70% architect and 30% 3D artist, meaning the 3D artist gets a little more control. It gives them more stuff. And then you go to Vintage, where it's more 70% 3D artist and 30% architect, in my opinion, of course, and which allows the 3D artist to have a lot more control. I think Vintage was a great tool that got created to give the real-time version of V-Ray, if you will, to me. We had V-Ray RT in the time. It was, at best, I know we're on Chaos right now, I don't want to say anything bad, but it was kludgy at best. So when Vintage came in, it was a blessing for us. It was finally an answer we could use. And then finally you have V-Ray, which is a full 3D app, which most there's a few architects that I know that like playing V-Ray, but of course they understand as well that once you go there, you're so far in the spectrum that now you're so detached from the model. There's a lot of things that gets disconnected, but you have so much more control and so much more flexibility with V-Ray. So Envision, let's go back to Envision. I think it's the perfect bridge to get out of Enscape and not just be into another pencil mode or whatever mode that you have in those software, to just see Rhino as this photorealistic versus real-time render type viewer. Enscape just gives you a much more flexible view, and it's an open box to an extent. we have access to cameras and stuff, so we can export things, we can import things, we can change settings without having to be in Enscape. So little wizards, like Phil likes to call me, we like to be able to go back and push back things to Enscape from other packages, right? So it's to me, they all have a very, very distinct place. They're not confusing to me, and I've been privileged to be part of the alpha of Envision, so I know Envision for about a year and a half now, a year and a half probably. So I've had the chance to really see, because I had the same question everybody asked at the beginning. When I saw it, I was like, well, do I stop using Enscape now? What's happening? And as I went along the alpha, I was able to understand really the positioning of that tool, which funny enough, we were using Vantage at the same time. So there was a lot of questions in the team, like, what do we do now? Which one are we picking? But then we realized they all had a different status or a different location and very, very different purpose. So Enscape to me is still extremely necessary. It still does 80% of the work easy. It's a quick, what I love about Enscape is the VR capabilities, the different mode we have now, the pencil and the watercolor mode. We have so that gives you kind of a different look. We have that white mode, all these modes, obviously, that most people are acquainted with. But it's really nice because it's quick. It's call it quick and dirty, but it gets you there. It gets you to talk to the client live and give them a real-time answer without having to go back and do anything more to explain what's happening. So it's been that Enscape is really that vision from the 2D plan to the 3D vision that people, Revit attempts to do with their views. Enscape finishes that attempt and makes it whole, right? But then you want to have that control. You want those cars. You want those people. You want better material control. Then you go to Envision and you have that much more. And then you're still an architect. You still have access to your model. You still have live update stuff. So it's still there. It still does what you need to do. But you now have a little bit more control.
Ludo, with what Ana was talking about, it's, as much as I love Revit, if you have a Rhino file for the skin and the SketchUp model is the site and the Revit model is the building and something else wants to be furniture, the beautiful thing about Enscape is everything comes into one source and you push start. The difficult part is, how do you get everything into one source and push start? It's like you can't predict what's going to happen. Geometry does weird things. Materials do weird things. And the thing I like about Envision is you don't have that constraint. You can take things from their native design file and aggregate them somewhere else where they stop moving around as much as you want them to. And then you can iterate lighting, materials, set dressing, assets to, as you say, that next level of realism. I don't know that, Corgan, the way that intro film, you guys are like a symphony. And what instrument doesn't belong in a symphony? You want all the instruments.
Absolutely.
So you can't say, oh, well, we should only have these instruments in the symphony because those are the good instruments. It's like, oh, no. We're going to use as many instruments as we can, depending on what we're trying to perform, depending on the composition. And the stuff that you've done with all of these tools is just, it's beautiful.
Well, thank you. And I think you're right about, it's a very good analogy of the instrument, the symphony there. I think they really have all their place. Like I said, Enscape is we're still using 70-80% of the time. Excuse me. And then we have Envision is starting to be used on the daily, on a weekly basis now, because we have that moment like, God, I wish we could do this, right? And you're in Enscape, you're like, God, I wish I could do this. So then you jump to Envision and then you go and do what you need to do. Like you said, now you bring in a different set of instrument and so on and so forth. And for some of you were lucky enough to, or lucky, or you had the chance to see my presentation a couple of weeks back on the Chaos group. Anyway, really at the end of the day, Viri is still very needed. There is that moment that you want more than a car. You need to have a robot. You need to have something that's very specific to your scene, where now you can carry the scene back and forth. So that means you can carry your layers and your renders from one top or the other. Josh, if you want to show the park place real fast as I'm talking, in this example, funny enough, this piece is using so many different ways to get to Rome. We do 2.5D animation out of Nuke. We take the renders out of Enscape that we painted on top, and then we make things a little bit better. And then we do full CG in there. We do integration of real building. Like in this case, the glass building right there in the middle is all fake, and it was all brought through V-Ray. So V-Ray is still needed because we want that realism that nobody, that no other even real time can achieve at this point. You still would see some jagged edge, and you'd still see where the problem is. Also, you wouldn't have the control over the layers you need. This is a 2D image that we just went and start adding some 2D effects to, and this is a full CG. So you see, we're really, and the full CG is all V-Ray at this point. In this case, sometimes it's fully Enscape, sometimes it's fully Envision, sometimes we have some very specific shot that it's a day to night shot. Vintage we just go to vintage, we do a day to night shot, and then we're done. The time lapse, and it looks great, and it's just that one shot, but it's that one shot that the tool was able to do without us having to go to 3D Max and do all the stuff in Max and so on and so forth. We just bring it to vintage. We just do a few things. When you made the lighting the way we want, we fake a little more. We have more control, so it gives us a chance to move the sun exactly where we want it, to hit the note perfectly without having to be realistic. And then all these little things help us to do this. So when you look at this piece here, like I said, really what's cool about it is that it's so many different techniques in one place to give you a piece, and it's about speed, right? We needed to deliver this in a very short amount of time. I think we had 2 weeks or something like that to deliver all this. So it was really important to have access to all these tools. So unfortunately, this one was done 3 years ago, so we didn't have Envision for this. But there's a couple of shots I totally can see where when it was full CG that we could have gone straight to Envision and do what we needed there, which would have saved us some render time and some access to some part of the image, and just do fast feedback and just get real time. So I really like that piece to show all the techniques in one place, right? Thank you, Josh. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that.
I know I'm tangenting, so guys, you need to control me. You need to set me back into.
You're amazing. You don't need to be controlled.
No, this is bad. Having good conversation.
Yeah.
And I think what you guys are talking about, like the overall, like keeping the ecosystem together. Like Philly mentioned, kind of bringing things from different places together. Ludo, you kind of mentioned it too. Like the overall like scene assembly, kind of bringing all that together and everything staying the same. Because prior, like trying to go from Revit into say like 3ds Max, it was kind of hard, especially if you had like Enscape assets and things like that. Like none of that would really come across. But at least now with the evolution of the VR scene inside of Enscape, being able to get things out of Enscape and having that control, bringing all that information across, you can go to these different programs now and have all that come across. Like you said, Phil, like it's really good analogy, like the symphony. Like I want to start using that now.
Yeah.
I was using Toolbox, but I think Symphony is a lot better.
Ludo, I've had people ask about Envision. When they haven't tried it, they're like, well, Enscape is right now. I just push start. I don't have a week, or I don't have 2 weeks to do something, more. But we're not talking about a week here as far as lead time. If someone has to turn around and deliver.
No, it's a very good point. Let's go back to that spectrum I had from Enscape to V-Ray here. I think Enscape, we all know it's a 30-second button, right? You have something real quick. If you need to change a couple of things, you need a couple hours max. You're done. This is it. You're in virtual reality, and you're done. You got your headset. Everybody's happy, right? But then Envision is not a week. It's 2 days, maybe 3 at most, where it's really just where you just need to add some cars, add some people, tweak some glass shaders or ground shaders, or add some leaves and whatnot and things like that. It allows you just the flexibility to just make the image a little more active, to activate the space. I think the architect likes to use that term a lot, activate a space. And I think Envision allows you to do this. Enscape will be a little colder because it's straight out of the drawing board, right? we do have the water and the grass moving around with the trees. That helps the activation. But I think the Envision brings you that real activation where you can start turning on and on lights. You can start doing the basic stuff that just makes the space look more occupied and more alive, right? So 2 to 3 days, usually that's why we use Envisions, because we're going to use Envision as a tool because it's 2 3 days. We don't have that much more time. And hopefully I'm talking to an architectural um, uh, community right now, but they know turnaround is a week is like a luxury boat. It's just like you have so much time for a week. So 2 3 days is the best. And really, what's nice about Vision is it allowed us to not worry about V-Ray for a minute and just do the 2 to 3 day turnaround and just get that out of the way, right? And then if we turn out like and not now, just but in a minute we'll be talking about Innovate Burr, the Burbank Airport, where we did a lot of stuff. We had like 3 months for this, so V-Ray is heavily using it, and because we had a lot more time and we wanted to really control all the glints and the glows and blah blah blah. So we used Nuke in the background, so we had a lot more time. So talking about luxury boat, now we were on a space travel at that point. We had so much time, so we had time to get to Mars before we get back to the ship, right? and so, but yes, Envision is great because it's that part where you're in Enscape, you're like, oh, I wish I could do this. Envision answers that question. I think the wish part, it just says I can do this, right?
Mhm.
And then you go to Vintage and V-Ray and Corona a little later when you're like, I have so much time now, I want to make it perfect. I want to go 11 out of 10. I want to go 12 out of 10. I'm going to use these tools to I'm going to go and use these tools to do this. I mean, I'm saying 11 and 12. People will say, well, isn't Envision doing this? Well, arguably for an architect, I'm pretty sure it does a 20 out of 10 when you look at it and you have all that control. But visually for 3D artists like me, a visual effects artist like me, at some point, 12 is harder to get. You need more control. This is where we get all our render elements. We go into Nuke and After Effects and tools like that to get the final result that we're looking for, a little more precise, detailed, and scalable.
Mhm.
The thing with Enscape is I find that it's predictable. It may not be
Absolutely.
everything I want, but I've got a design file open. I know I'm going to see a better version of that in Enscape. And where I hear customers struggling is when they're using, let's say in terms of Envision, other kinds of tools in that sort of ecosystem. They struggle with getting a predictable starting point that they're seeing in Enscape. So they're exporting to go somewhere else. And now they have to start almost all over again, relighting, rematerials.
Absolutely.
That's a problem we're also solving with Envision. You should get a predictable starting point when you create your VR scene to start again without having to start again and again.
It's a very good point. I think that's the beauty of staying in the ecosystem, right? You stay. It's like your Apple. Can I say Apple? It's like, can I cuss or I really don't know. Okay, but it's like that ecosystem where you want to stay in the same place, and it helps you to be able to go back and forth, right?
Right.
And Phil, you're making a good point. I mean, there's other tools out there, and we've used most of those. Funny enough, we have pieces and stuff like that, and we've done those other tools. But the biggest drawback, in my presentation a couple of weeks ago, I said the biggest drawback was I couldn't go back. Once you're in that box, you're stuck in that box. You can't get out of it. You can't get camera out. You can't go back. Everything is live one way. So whatever's coming from Revit or Rhino or SketchUp or the other guys, when they go in, it's one way. You can just update the actual design without having but you can't go back. When you're in Enscape, when you put a tree, the tree is in Revit or in Rhino as well. Right? It might be a proximate of it, but it's still there, which helps you understand where things are and why the client was so excited to see that tree right there. Now you still have it when you're designing, so you still can have access to it without having to well, is it here or is it? Well, I think it's. Let me look at the image and say, it's about here. Okay, I'll guess that now. Type of thing. You're taking the guesswork out of the picture. I think really at the end of the day, the black box is we call it the black box. Sorry, I don't want to put my whole team. They now call it black box probably because of me, but it's that black box that nothing comes out of it until you and even trying some of that stuff is quite hard. And trust me, we've done a lot of wizardry, and we have hackers, we have all these great guys working behind the scene, and we have great ideas to try to open that box as much as we can. But regardless of that, when you do a texture and certain program and you make age to it, the age doesn't come back. So now you had a great material showing your interior design to this client, but now you can't go back and you don't have that material anymore when you go back to Revit to finish your work, right? Which is could be frustrating sometimes.
I just
Well,
want to
there's a
say
lot of sunk cost. If you're using Enscape, the effort that you're putting in your file is a sunk cost. It's an investment. If you can't leverage that investment, you have 2.5 days. Do you have half a day to go, oh, well, let me start over rematerializing things and re-adding assets and trying to repeat what you've already started with over here? And it seems like the value of not having to start again is like, if you have 2.5 or 3 days, you don't have much time.
Yeah, on our side, that is a big point. There is not having to restart is a big point. It's different. It's different. Like I said, if you have 2 days, it's different than losing a day just trying to get back to where you were a minute ago. Now you have to spend a day to bring it back to where it was. Now you have a day left to finish the job, right? Which I'm sure, and I like I said, we get there eventually, but there's a few overtime. And overtime, I don't know if you guys like overtime. I don't anymore. I'm too old for this anymore, so I don't really like overtime. So I like to have I have a tool that allows me to just go and do what I do in the time that I'm paid to do that. Not
and for someone
outside of
who's familiar with Enscape, is this heavy lifting? Is this something that you think they could leverage even in a small firm where they're not having to learn a complicated tool all over? They could actually integrate this into their workflow.
I like that. The learning curve. My 3D artist took about half a day to figure it out, which obviously the 3D artist. The architect, I'd say, it's a day of, if they play with it for a couple of days, they'll figure out what they get. Now, okay, let's put it this way. If I just send you, I say, hey, you never use Envision, I'm going to throw you in Envision. Here's what happened. You go in Envision, the scene loads, you can move the camera around. That takes about 15 minutes to figure out how the camera moves and stuff. Now, you don't know how to manipulate the camera, the lights, the materials and stuff like that just yet. But hey, you're already in Envision. You move to the next stage. Now, you can start clicking buttons around. You'll make mistakes, but honestly, you'll get something faster because you're in a very familiar environment. Things are very familiar. When you say lights, it's the same thing all across the ecosystem. When you say camera, it's the same thing. When you say materials, I honestly, the materials, I just jumped in and started clicking around, seeing what, because I'm used to the material editor in Enscape. I feel very familiar just looking at the materials and stuff. Now, again, within the first day, did I know all the intricacy of what Envision can do? No. But within a couple of days or so, I was like, hey, guys, I was teaching other guys what to do with the tool. So, and again, for an architect, I think it's an intuitive part that you're not going to, I won't say any name, but other tools, when you go there, suddenly they have different icons, they have different place for things, they have different nomenclature about the materials they're using. Regardless of that's, to me, is a blocking point of not just trying to bring things up to the same par, but on how to bring things up to par at the same time. Now you're losing even more time to get there. If you haven't used those tools, and these tools are very, very fast changing. Super fast changing, the other tools, and because they're trying to keep up, right? They're trying to keep up with the each other, right? Fighting each other, right? It's a good competition, and so it's always good. But with that in mind, things change fast. When the interface changes entirely, you're like, no, it's a little bump here from 2.9 to 3.0. That was a pretty big change at the time for Enscape. So a lot of people are like, what the heck happened? And just that moment there. But since then, I think we've stabilized that moment. And now 4.8, I think. So 4.7, 4.8.
4.9
around the corner.
Yeah.
So, but the interface remains the same, and it's similar. People just go in, they just see new features. So now they just have a minute to look at this new feature. I think Envision is that feeling. Is the first time Yeah, it turns out, oh, there's a lot more button than I'm used to. Yes, but that's the whole point. That said, you don't need to know all the buttons by default to be able to do something. You literally can just go and bring your scene, move your camera around, figure out where the render button is, and you're set. Now you're gonna say, well, that's the same thing as Escape, but now you're in Envision. Now you can start playing, you can start discovering, and so on.
You
can do
mentioned
more with it.
Maybe intuitively as a wizard does. You mentioned, oh, you open it up, there's a camera. There you can modify the lights, you can modify the materials, you can change assets. Do you think like those 4 pieces are the critical pieces to get your head around it? Is there something?
Yeah, moving up. One thing it sounds stupid, but one thing I like that Envision does that other tools don't is in Inkscape, when you get the Inkscape result out of Revit, and I know it's going to scare for everybody, double geo, flickering geo everywhere, because there's the MEPs or the infrastructure or the structural isn't there at the same time.
Right.
And then
like
things
the
just
buffering where things flicker.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So one thing that's frustrating is like, I just wish I could move this, and I always like to ask Connect, can you move this object for me? Oh my gosh, this is always an interesting request. So let's not go into detail of what happens there. So what I like is when I go to Envision, I'm like, okay, just let me pick this guy, move it out, and move it out by a quarter of an inch or not even an eighth of an inch. And it's enough for the Z buffering to figure out that it's 2 different geometry and move on. It took me half a second to fix it. That one is probably the first thing I wanted to learn because I knew Envision could do that. So the first thing I jumped in is I had to do this. Other tools, they offer that too, but they're a little more complicated. So for instance, other tools, you have to go in Max, for instance, and create layers of the object you want to be able to move. And then once you bring them into their tools, then you can move them. It's a pain in the butt to just move an object. With Envision, I just go out of Inkscape straight to Vision. I pick that damn object, move it out. And I'm saying that because when it's flickering, it's a pain in the butt. So I just pick it. I do there's a nice little, the 3-axis icon at the top. Click on it, move the object, done. And it literally, and in fact, if I want to be technical, I can go to properties and just type it in the number to be very specific and stuff. I can do that too. But again, that's where, oh, okay, what is that button? Oh, I can move things, and then you can see the property on the right eventually pop up. I'm like, what is that property? And then you start typing stuff, and like, oh, I can move things without having to use the interface if I want to, because I'm more of a technical person, right? So
yeah,
I'm curious also, because we discussed the fact that we have a lot of people here that haven't, for example, used Enscape, because we have a lot of Corona and V-Ray members of the Chaos community, Chaos Campus community. So I was wondering, we have an architect here, Ana Lyubenova, who has used and has experience with both V-Ray and with Enscape. So we'll be curious to see what was her exploration start with both, and how she sees the difference between like all the tools that we have in our ecosystem, how she will draw the line. How does your symphony sound like, Ani?
Oh, well, that's a hard question. It's not fair.
We're here for hard questions.
Yeah, well, it's true that I have experience with like both tools, with Enscape and V-Ray, and in fact, I was a product manager for V-Ray for Revit for quite a while. But the thing is that Enscape is great for architects because architects are not visualization specialists. Like, yes, they need to visualize their ideas, of course, in order to take design decisions or evaluate several design options and, again, take a decision. So for that purpose, Enscape is just great because it's so fast. And as Ludo already said, it offers a way better view than the built-in one that you will have in, say, I don't know, Revit or SketchUp. And then V-Ray is for professional visualizers. So people that want to go beyond the average quality, and basically the quality and realism of the final images are, I don't know, sky's the limit. Yeah, and then Envision is kind of in between. Like, it can bridge Enscape and V-Ray because it's as easy as Enscape, but at the same time, it allows for reaching that ultra high quality, and it has this additional set of animation capabilities that are unique to it.
Thanks. And I'm also curious, like regarding Envision, would you say that it's mainly a tool to communicate with clients, or would you also position it or use it as something that you can implement for design exploration, like for exploring your scenes before sharing it with the client, or maybe during, but for also like work before sharing it with the client?
Well, definitely for both. And if you want to basically show off your design in its best light, so to say, or in its best context, and to tell the story of your design, because all the animation capabilities plus the ability to assemble from multiple files allow you to tell that story in a unique way.
And also like the ability to do infinite number of variations. So you can show
Yeah,
your designs in near limitless
yeah,
variations.
yeah. But you can also animate between them. So
Yep.
probably one of the most common examples would be that you would start your Envision video with just a white model, and then you will create that video where the model gets covered with materials, and then all the buildings around that model are assembled, or they just fall off from the sky. And then you would add all the entourage and planting and stuff like that, make the cars move. So it literally allows you to tell a story and to direct it on your own, which is really cool, I think.
Yeah, Josh, you touched a nerve, because as much as I like Revit, design options are like,
Yeah.
they technically work, but you have to untangle them constantly, and it's a pain. I even start design options by creating an empty option, because then nothing shows up automatically, and then you start creating option 1, 2, 3, and the primary option is 0 with nothing.
Yeah.
But the ability of Envision to create these variations, and I don't think there's a limit. If you want to get in there and apply variations of lighting and material and assets, you have that flexibility of ideating without weighing down your primary design file. And then once you build consensus, you can go back to your design file and make your decisions instead of trying to do them with, it's like, to me, it's better design options than design options.
Yeah. Ludo, do you find that's been a big thing for you guys too, is the variations?
Absolutely. I think it's a great point of being able to bring the design into Envision to help you go a little faster. I mean, usually, it's no secret to anybody. Option is to create 10 and trash 9 and keep 1, right? So, it's and with that in mind, the beauty of Envision is the weight. I think the weight is the big thing, especially when you come from Revit. Creating the design option in Revit is useful, but again, it's kind of Revit trying to be a 3D package when it's not. Revit is a BIM. It's a building, and I respect Revit for what it is. At first, 12 years ago, I thought it was the devil's incarnation of something, but now today I respect that tool, and I just to explain my journey, right, my personal journey with it. Today I respect that tool like it's a very necessary tool. I understand its vision. However, it is trying so hard to be a 3D tool that it's not. That every time we create a view and then Revit, things get heavier in this. Just a view, creates heavy, and I know that because one time we created 400 views in Inkscape, for not Inkscape, sorry, in Revit, and we went from 15 minutes to load the model to about 6 hours to load the model. So we had to delete all the views to bring it back to 15 minutes. So just views is making things heavier, right? And this is not a dig to Revit. Revit is not a 3D package. It's not, and in a view for it, it's a different 3D scene. It's not, when you go to, so now jump to Envision, the beauty of Envision is that it's one package with different eye glasses, right? Different sunglasses on to see different vision and different views of what you're looking for without being so much heavier because you're just trying to do different things, right? So I think it's been very helpful for us.
I like this distinction. I think Revit is a good decision-making tool.
Absolutely.
I don't know that it's always a good iteration
documentation tool.
Decision-making, documentation.
Yep.
But if you're trying to iterate, like with design options, you want a new wall with a new material. Oh, duplicate the wall with the door, with the window, and now put a new material on that wall. And there's walls on top of walls. Like, really?
Yeah, which is, and I'm not going to say our guys do that, but I see a lot in the industry. A lot of people, they rather go to Rhino or SketchUp to be able to iterate.
Yep.
Literally, that's one reason and here's Rhino. What's funny story with Rhino? I know Rhino since, oh my gosh, when did Rhino start? Back in the 90s or something like that?
Something like that, yeah. It's been
Yeah,
around
something
for a
like
while.
that.
Yeah.
And as far as the 3D industry goes, Rhino did not make the test of time, right? But it was still there. It was still used, but it was not as it used when it started. It was like everyone knows this, everyone knows that. The Norm Modeler, it's great. But when I started coming back to architecture a few years back, I was like, what? I didn't know Rhino still existed, which was very funny. But when it came back, when I tried to understand why did it come back, and the biggest thing the biggest answer I got was iteration, flexibility, the design option to be able to do curvatures and stuff like that much more easier than, and now we have all these tools that bring Rhino stuff through Grasshopper or PyRevit back to Revit to have the model there, but people rather model in Rhino and then bring it back to Revit to finish the job because they need Revit no matter what, right? Yeah, it's really just, it's that part where I think the iteration is probably one of the big feature that Envision brings for sure. There's no question.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. I
was just saying the fact that it maintains 100% ray tracing, like the whole time, like that to me is another amazing thing. Like,
oh yeah, well,
yeah, like the thing with Enscape, it's like, oh, I can see a really, really good looking result the whole time, and I get the same thing with Envision, but it's like 100% ray trace the whole time, like.
And I can see the variation, right?
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. Looks like
we have some questions here.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a question about whether or not you have to set up all the materials in the design tool or Enscape in order to get them in Envision.
And the answer is no.
Yeah, I was going to say no. I mean, arguably,
we design. I might have a white cardboard model. I don't know.
Exactly.
Figure out where things are and what they are. Give it to someone else to figure out in Envision. Don't even make me stop and do it in Enscape. In Enscape, it's just cardboard, white mode. Now go figure out materials and lighting in Envision.
Yeah, but let's make it clear for everyone who is with us right now. You guys need to build the model in another tool then export it to Envision. But basically everything else can be set up in Envision. Even if you have already configured the materials, but for some reason you don't want them, you don't like them, whatever, you can replace them and you can generate as many variations as you want to.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah, I agree with this. I mean, obviously, we've been using Enscape for, I want to say 5-7 years now. I can't remember. It's been so long.
You guys were an early adopter. I want to say probably early on, Chuck and Chad.
17, 18.
Yep, we need to do webinars.
Yeah, so you see 7 years. Yeah, 7 years. So so our influence at this point, all the architect does the material. Most of the architect will do their material, but those that don't have time, this is the beauty of it. They don't have to worry about it. We can jump on it and do it on our side if we need to, right? So that's the beauty of the whole thing, is that we don't have to wait for them to do anything about it. We can just jump straight to Envision and then just do what we need there without having to wait for them to do something about it. They can just say, hey, I want this. And then you send us a little picture of the swatch. We can put that on and we're moving on. So no, you don't need to do everything in Revit or Rhino, whatever. It's hard for me to say that we use that workflow where we do not do that, but we have the flexibility now not to do it, just because we've been using Enscape for so long. It's kind of a part of our flow at this point. People put material, but when they put a wall, they put a jib by default to it and they just move on, right? They don't. It's an automatic thing now for us. So but yes, absolutely. That's one of the beauties when we have 2 to 3 days to turn something around. We don't have to wait for the architect anymore. We can just take their model, help them make it pretty as fast as we can, and then ship it out of Envision, not out of Revit per se.
I mean, Ludo, you talked about activating the space, and the architect and the design team have they have so much to do in the programming stage to make the numbers work, to make the site work, to make the functions work, to meet requirements, and then activate the space. Really, I got to do that too. And you talked about scattering leaves on the ground. What are the kind of things that you guys do to activate the space? Those subtle, subjective, visual, almost tricks, but just to make it appear natural. What are the, because I noticed in your video, in your animation, you weren't animating people. Like in the gym, in the office space, you actually keep them nice and still. Maybe there's other times that you animate them.
Yeah, definitely time, yes.
Yeah, what are the things that you do to activate the space?
It's that's a good point. We do.
It's subjective.
So people are, for us, is called a distractor. And what I don't like about people, and that's people in general, not real people, 3D people. What I don't like about 3D people is the distraction that it brings to design, right? You notice that old lady there. You notice the guy in the red shirt with the red hat. I know a lot of people. I'm sure if there's any like on right now, there's probably a lot of people remember that guy with the red shirt and the red hat. But you notice that guy and you get distracted. So a lot of time it's a choice that we make if we make people move or not. If we have an intention to sell a space, say, hey, the space is going to do this for you, we need to move people so people do what they're supposed to do in that space and they do this. But if we want to sell the space, not the people and what they're going to do, we try to not move the people. So it's a story decision right at the end of the day.
It's scale and proportion, but
yeah.
You guys are using the people to tell the story.
Exactly.
Activate the space. And if they're not telling the story correctly, then it can be distracting.
Exactly. So as far as tricks, I mean, we like to be able to, this is where Vantage and VRA were there before Envision. Basically, this is where we go there, is to move all the chairs a little bit by, 3 degrees. So the chairs are not lined up perfectly around the table. They just have just that. Your brain says somebody was here. Your brain accepts the fact that somebody was here before. When it's perfectly there, it's like, well, that's just plastic. That would never happen in real life. Well, actually, I know somebody who likes to do this. I won't say her name right now, but she likes to do this a lot, where things are perfectly. And when you get there, it's kind of, it's not alive at that point. It's just perfect, right? Which is great. Perfect is great, but at the same time, it doesn't make things alive, right? One
so
thing
you go around and nudge the chairs.
Yeah, well, we use scripting to do this and stuff. We use scripting to do this. We don't manually do all this, right?
Yeah.
But we use scripting to do all that stuff. But we like to kind of rotate things around. And cars are helpful. Don't put 600 cars moving. Put 2 or 3 cars that leads your vision, your view, where you're focused, so you can follow the cars. Oh, I didn't see that first before. So we use that there. So if you look at the Elevate Burbank at some point, if we look at the view at some point, you'll see a lot of people are moving there because we had to activate the space and make sure people understood that they're going to be okay there. The space had to be airy and big, which the more people, in this case, we had to put a lot of people. So yes, the fact that people are distracted in this case was useful because to tell the story, like, yes, you can put a lot of people in there and you're still moving around without bumping into each other's elbows left and right? And the details, it's the water on the ground, the wetness on the ground goes a long way to create that activation of saying something happened yesterday or last night or 2 hours ago, whatever. So again, your brain accepts that there's a history to the place, right? One thing that is cool about texture is adding some age to the texture and stuff like that, adding dust or whatever. Just add that history, and then your brain connects the dot as saying, this is how you have to activate the. I come from a marketing background when I was back in a long time ago. And one thing that we were doing a lot was images, and it was all about images and what can you do in an image to make people connect the dot that something happened here without moving, right? So any tricks that can help you add those little
the little imperfections.
Imperfection goes a long way.
Yeah.
History.
But you're talking about adding the component of time to a visualization. Yeah. So you're not just frozen in the moment and it's perfect. Yes. You're actually saying something happened here before.
Yes.
Did you come up with that yourself?
It already exists, the project. You have to...
the subjects you're saying there's water on the ground and these subtle reflections. It's not just eye candy. It's like, oh, something just happened or might have happened. Right.
And
Is
it
this
adds.
something you came up with in your wizard
Well, I don't
brain?
know. I would
Or
like to
is it
blame all
something
the.
that you adopted?
I'd like to blame all the boss I had in the past that kind of trained me to get there eventually. I mean, I'm sure there's a mix of everything. I wouldn't say I came up with that. I think it goes back to visualization from 1800s or whatever when the first
Yeah.
black box, the first light box showed up and things like that.
Mhm.
So it's really the history of stuff. But one thing that repeats itself is really making people feel like something happened. Like
Yeah.
I remember, it's so stupid as an example here. I'm probably buying time too, but I remember I would tell kids or my artists put some scratches on the wall, right? And
Yep.
then they would put scratches like Predator or Alien went on the damn wall, and just I'm like, what the hell, man? And I was like, no, I just want like what how did this? If I'm asking for scratch, how did the scratch get created there, right? So
Right.
that's a very good question. Is like, how did that happen? So in an airport, how did the scratch happen on the wall? It's the luggage
Right.
beating the box. So it's
Yeah.
not going to be at 6 feet in the air. It's going to be at 2 feet below that you're going to add the scratches. So that makes sense to put scratches there, right? So just give you a quick example here, but that's how I come up with the idea of like, how do you make sure the history makes sense too? If you put
Yeah.
the Helium and Alien and Predator scratches on the wall here, people are like, well, that's weird. They're going to focus on that. That becomes a red shirt and a red hat, right? It just, they focus on that thing now. So versus when they see that scratch on the wall there at the 2 feet level, your brain just says, this is normal. I'm going to keep going. That means somebody was here a minute ago, or there's been a lot of people going through this whole space here. That something happened in this space. So your brain attaches, and again, it's not about just splattering things. You have to think about what you're splattering and the people. We take a lot of time to put the people in the right places we can. Now, of course, there's always that moment where you have to use a randomizer, which are great tools, by the way. I love being able to randomize my people and just say, okay, I fill up the space. But we do so that's in Cape, right? You just throw a bunch of people in the space. They're as placey as good as they can with the random rotation and such. But at the end of the day, when you go to Envision, this is where you're like, okay, I really need to have that one guy I want to follow the whole time. You can bring that guy and make him animate the way you want on the path.
Mm.
So your eye follows him, and now he's telling you the story of the passenger flow for an airport, for instance.
Okay.
So now suddenly you have that control that you didn't have before. Now, can I make him juggle? No, I can't. I'm going to have to go to V-Ray or Vintage to go that far. But if I want him to walk and just say, you know what, I want that red shirt and the red hat, I want people to follow his focus, then I can just control that part, which I can't really do I can't do in Enscape, right? So this is another reason why you want to do this. So now you're using the space, you're telling the story with the space, you're using the people in the more intelligent, intelligent is intelligible way of using that person, not just
Yeah.
splattering them in the space, right? So
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It's a very storytelling and artistic approach that you're having, because I remember I was at this conference DDD in Italy, and one of the artists, he had an amazing presentation. He was talking a lot about the way the eye works, because you have to build a narrative based on your understanding of how we perceive visual information. He was talking about the fact we barely capture, like it was like a very tiny, I don't know, less than 5% of the when we look at the world outside. And in this short glimpse of time, you have to, your storytelling is what you make people see. And if you have this huge traffic of people or cars that directs them in a certain way where your project is not there and actually takes them outside of the image right away, then it really doesn't matter. It doesn't make sense to have huge traffic of human beings or cars flowing around. I wanted to ask something. Josh, go ahead, and then I'll ask something.
But no, I was just going to get to one of the questions about bringing in FBX files, OBJ files, extra files that can't be brought in through host design applications. Yeah. So Envision can bring in FBX files, OBJ files, DAE files as well, in addition to the VRC and
like
VR
OBJ
mesh.
files for assets, for furnishing. Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, that's heavy handling for Enscape. You got to go through something else to get it in through Revit.
Yeah. Which funny enough, we have we have a workflow on the lab where when we bring assets, we make sure that they are exported to all possible venues, including Enscape and stuff like that. So we have Enscape, we have a proxy, we have a Quixel, we have a Max, and so we have all these formats when we create an object. Yes, it makes things a little longer, but now we have we pay the price at the front, but when it comes in very handy, saying, I need that car, and it's a proxy right now. When it comes in, I've already saying, oh, well, don't worry about it. We just got the same car right here. Just replace it. You're done, right? So it's, again, it's all about the workflow. One thing people talking about workflow, people have to understand there's a value of putting a lot of time in the front to get you faster when you need it to be faster.
Right.
I remember this project I worked for 3 months on where we did libraries. As I was working on libraries. I was building libraries and stuff. And the creative director showed up 3 days before the delivery of the project, and it was back in the days in production. And we had 3 spots. We worked 3 months on, but the whole time I built the library. I had all the animation was library, everything was library, and he goes 3 days before, he throws the storyboard out and says, "This is expletive right here," and then it's like, we got to start over. Well, the only reason that we were able to deliver those 3 commercials in the 3 days is that we had all that library and stuff. So the time that we took to build all this really helped us create that 3-day turnaround, based on the asset that we had and stuff like that. So one thing I tell people is that when they do things is really to make sure that they do create the assets in all the format they can think of, so that when it's time to use it, they don't have the question, is that supported or not, right? It's really about, well, hey, I can use this, good, move on. And yes, it takes one guy probably an extra hour or 2 to just make the other format, but I promise you, when it comes in production, it becomes very, very handy when it happens, right? So, as far as object goes, I don't know all the format it supports. I believe we've used a lot of those formats so far. So, we're not stopping ourselves, but yes, back in days when Inkscape was the problem, is we had to go through Revit first, but now, and since I would say 3.5, is it 3.5 the object library, custom library came in? I can't remember.
About 3.4, 3.5, yeah.
3.4, 3.5, 3.4. I think it's 3.4. Anyway, when that came in, we jumped on it right away. We were very aggressive about it, and we're like, this is not doing this, it's not doing this. Which, a little segue here, helps me tell that what I like about the Chaos team is the responsiveness. Now, I'm not saying anything that would say that I support anything. I just want to say the support itself is incredible. The people are responsive. It's a great team there. I bumped into Ana for the first time back in, it was AU last year, right? AU or something like that. And we bumped into each other, and she somehow knew me. Unfortunately, I didn't know her, but we instant connection. She talked right away. There was no it was direct connection, and from there we built that relationship. We've been chatting and so on and so forth. We were part of the Inkscape Alpha, the Envision Alpha. That's probably how she knew who I was. But anyway, it was instant, and that means she's paying attention, right? She's not just, she knew who I was, which, sorry, and I didn't know who you were at the time. But but she knew who I was. That means she's paying attention. That means the support is there to help you, right? And this is one thing, is we make a request and there's a back and forth. Like why not and why, and so on and so forth. And it does happen. Eventually it does happen because there's a party that's listening to what we need, right? And they do take care of understanding the stuff. So Envision was, to me, is not complete yet. It's still like in progress. It still has that. It's 1.0, whatever, 1.1, whatever it is now, but it's still in that infancy. But man, I can totally see the investment on that tool is worth every penny for anybody at this point. I think it's worth like any other tool, but that's one because of the people behind it, the logic behind it, the thought process behind it. I think it's a great part.
What's a wish list item for Envision?
Oh man, Mehmet already took care of that. He gave me my 24 frames per second. That's all I needed. You brought it up, so I was not going to say it, but no, honestly,
for Labradors that don't understand the importance of 24 frames a second, explain
that.
Yeah.
Well, it's 6 frames less per second to render, It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money.
I mean, that's analog film, right? 24 frames a
Yeah.
second.
I know. Well, this is the first roll of film was at 24. Well, actually 48, but in between it was a black frame, so it was 24 frame, known as 24 frame. Which that's where it started, right? The rolling of a film and so on and so forth. And obviously technology came in. That's where the 30, 29, 9.7, and 25 and all the other guys came in because of electricity and physics and stuff. But regardless, 24 is the original thing. It's the natural thing that your brain has been taught to look at since 1893 or whatever, 96, I think, when the first horse was filmed, driving around, because it was a bet, right? They were all saying, all these rich guys were sitting around the table saying, hey, I bet somebody says, did you know that horses never, as they gallop, never have four hoof on the ground at one point? It was like everybody started betting, saying, no, that's not true. So this guy went and did a matrix effect, which funny enough is the matrix effect for the bullet time, and put about, I don't know, about like 30, 40 cameras all lined up, all sequentially start to at the right time and so on and so forth. And you had somebody gallop with a horse, and then he took the however many picture it was, and then they created a film. He made it move and showed that the horse never touches four hoofs at the same time when he gallops, only three at the time. And so this is where film started, right? This is moving images and so on and so forth. This is where it's obviously somebody could find saying, well, no, it's when they had that little, can't remember the name of it, the little spinning thing that you look through the little spinning thing that you look through. It's the same concept, but that's the real film part that came from there. And 24 was the role of like people were born 48 because there was 48 flat. Anyway, I'm getting way technical right now.
Pictures in motion.
Picture in motion. The days.
It's pictures in motion, yeah.
And so the 24 frame from there went and grew, and your brain, and just like, why do we know a face when we come out of the womb? The first thing you see is a smile. You recognize a smile right off the bat when you've never seen one, right? You just come out, you're all fresh. You're like, you see a smile, it makes you feel comfortable because it's here now. It's all ingrained in your DNA. It's something that you're used to. So, there was a 240 and the 240 hertz TV frenzy about 10 years ago that was very funny to me because it made everything look real. And people were like, no, I hate that because it does not look like a movie anymore. I can't. And the reason people didn't like it, it's not that it looked real. Funny enough, it looked like they were right next to me. But at the same time, it didn't allow you to be in that space of imagination and this world that doesn't exist anymore. That's the whole point of movies, is go to an environment that don't exist and be able to escape somewhere and just enjoy something for a minute, right? And to just be in a different space and so on and so forth. So that 24 is intricate to all these moments. Obviously today, like I said, 24 is 6 frames per second less. At 3 minute videos, it's a lot of time that you're saving. And trust me, I've been doing rendering for 30 years or some years, and I promise you guys that 6 frames still today is still valuable, right? When you VR, you want to go 60, 90, 120 because you want to be there, right? By all stretch of imagination, you want to be there. But when you're doing movies and moving images, you want to be more in that. I want to be engaged in that space. So being the space feel like right next to you is not as engaging as saying, oh, this is the future. I can imagine myself in that future and what it can be, and your brain can just enjoy the show a little bit. So the 24 was a big thing because all our workflow is 24, just because of all the 30 years reason I just gave you and the history I just gave you in a nutshell. But it was very, very important for us to be able to do that, right? To be able to do these things, to be able and 24 frame is a lot less frame to track, a lot less frames to roto. The value, I promise, is all is on paper, not just in my head, right? So
but it's like you're saying too much realism is not natural.
Yeah, because that's not what we're used to. Why do you? Okay, here's a question for you, Phil. Why do you always see a plane flying in the air? Does anybody, when they see a plane, they there's a plane there? How?
Actually, in one of the videos, maybe the first video Josh played, we were watching it and it's kind of outside the building. There's a bit of a plinth, maybe some people, and up in the corner is a tiniest little plane.
Yes.
So what you're saying is true.
Why did you see it? Why did you see it?
I don't know.
Well, it's easy.
It's what you expect.
It broke the pattern. Your eye saw a pattern, broke, and went to it. That's why you saw it. I just broke a pattern of the sky. The sky. If there's skies and clouds, you don't care. Your brain.
Are you putting a plane in the distance somewhere to frame it, or how is that done?
What do you mean?
Like in that video that we showed, there's actually a plane in the upper left-hand corner. It's like a commercial aircraft. It's very, very subtle and small and tiny. Are you just putting that image somehow in post, or do you have?
Yeah, it's all in post. Yeah, it's all in post. Yeah, it's all in post. Okay. No post magic here. But the point is
that 3 miles away.
That plane exists to. But to make my point is that those little things, the brain, the subconscious is so powerful. If you understand how it works, that you can get so much, get a deeper story for people, and people more engaged and more involved in what's happening, and the coolness of quote unquote the coolness of Enscape, because it's straight out of Revit or Rhino or SketchUp, whatever, is cold because it's perfect. Perfect is cold, right? But the more older things get, or the more involved things get, more history, then it's warmer, it's more inviting. You want to be there, you want to be invited by this. So Envision allows you to push that coolness and bring it to a warmer climate, if you will, for the user, for the viewer, to really imagine the space in a more engaged way. If I can engage you in the image or the movie I'm showing you, I made my job. I did my job. If you cut that little plane, I did my job.
I don't know how, but I was like, oh, there's a plane in the sky. Okay.
Well, but that's because your eye saw a pattern that was broken. The sky is supposed to be blue and with white clouds in it, right? So
yeah, but that's perfect.
You saw a dot in the back there. You're like, something is off. So you look, like, oh, there's a plane there. That's cool. It is an airport, whatever, or there's an airport by or whatever. I can't remember exactly what I was trying to say, but you're involving something else out of the story. So you're making the story a lot more dimensional.
Ludo, I think we need to do it.
Manipulate. Phil. We're very easy to manipulate. Ludo caught you right in the net, like
there's little things in there. Like I would love to have a webinar with Ludo where he's given a scene that's perfect and distracting, and he makes it look natural. Walk through that process.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. Maybe we could do another one where it's just, obviously you can make a really good rendering, but like we're talking about, like the overall arching, like what are those subtle little things that really help push that rendering to the next level? Like Ludo, I feel like we could do a couple hour session with you if you want, if you're willing, where we could just go about
I'd love to share my knowledge. That's one thing I do like to do is share my knowledge to the world. I'm a Visual Effects Society board of members in Texas. We have a section over there, and I promote education. I promote to help people, and I'm mentoring people right now, and nudge to Pablo here that I'm mentoring. Everybody has their different stories and stuff, and it's very interesting to be able to help people. And I want to share what I have. I mean, I'm privileged enough to be where I'm at today, and I am thankful. And that sounds like I'm kissing a butt right now, but I'm not. I'm just saying I'm very thankful where I'm at. That they give me an opportunity to get out of the entertainment industry, which is a fiasco right now, and I love everything that comes out of it. But man, at the price that we're paying for this is not human. And I'm very privileged to be in this architectural world and get the chance to do what I love to do, is tell the stories, is to educate people, it's to help people and grow and get things, where they need to be next. And I like the future. I like to see what next and what people do. And that's why I'm always looking at the latest and greatest technology like Envision. When Envision came out, there was a lot of question. I promise you, we were all over the place. Like, what the heck? What do we need this for? Why? And I'm like, they said, do you want to be the alpha? I'm like, sure. I wanted to see what the hell, right? And I got in. I'm like, oh my gosh! They finally they got that little piece of the puzzle that was missing in the whole ecosystem. And it took me a couple of minutes to figure out. A couple of minutes, maybe a couple of months, but I figured. When I figured out, when it clicked, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is totally why it's there. It makes sense. If I can help today make people understand and not spend the 2 months of trying to figure out what the hell is Envision and why do I need it, I want to do that today. That's what, if I can just tell you guys this is why you want to use Envision, and that's why we use Envision. That's if I can give that part and just help there, I'd be more happy. Hopefully, that's the success that we get.
Absolutely. So you get your 24 frames a second. What else would you like to see?
The integration of AI right now is happening, but slowly. I mean, we were very thankful when Enscape showed up with the make people look real part. That was helpful a lot because that was part of our process that we hated, because to an extent, I don't mind painting images, make them prettier, but at some point when I have to make somebody look better, it's just part of, like, it's the cosmetic I don't want to have to deal with, which the AI is helping a lot right now and making those parts better. AI is still funny when it sees a blind, it sees a radiator, but that's a different story. But a better integration of AI, or a more in-depth integration of AI would be a long way. So, for instance, if I could just say, and just an example is to be able to load my scene from Enscape and then say, hey, you know what? As a first pass, give me a first pass. I need to make the space look like it's been there for 15 years. And then suddenly just modify all the materials to be a little older, and based on the environment, you might say this is an airport or this is a hospital. And so the hospital, by the way, the scratches are more at 4 feet, because that's where the gurneys and stuff that carries people hits the wall. So anyway, but an AI that could kind of get you started to just kind of dirty the place up for you, and then you can go and tweak what you need and change things here, and then so that would be a huge saver. When you place people, AI would help a lot to say, hey, if it's an airport, that means there's 200 people that are walking in the hall, but in the lounges there's only 1 or 2 people standing up, the rest is all sitting, or whatever. You get my gist. Right now I have to put people standing, and then I would say, well, 10% have to be here, 10% have to be there, and 80% have to be there, but it's not as easy to control. So unless I create different sections and so on and so forth. So now you're putting a little more, it's just, I want to use AI not to do my job, but to
like a workflow tool,
facilitate my job. And I think AI is a very good help there. I think a better integration of AI would be my request, my wish list.
Yeah. This is a very good, very, very, very interesting one. And also, Ana, there is a question about Enscape and Veris in a corporation.
Yeah, I saw that question. Well, right now, the only thing that Envision and Veris have in common is that they're part of the same suite. So, with one license, you get access to Enscape, Envision, Veris, Enscape Impact, and what else? Maybe Phil can help me here.
In the Art Design Collection?
Yeah, in the Art Design Collection.
And
we actually haven't explored any like combination between Envision and Veris, but I think it totally makes sense in the AI context.
Phil, is there any wish list items that you would have?
Ludo, I've always approached Enscape from the standpoint of you have to understand lighting. You need to understand materials, and not just the color and the quality of the material, but also how it reflects light. You need to understand graphics. Anything that's complicated or detailed, you could probably use an image to simulate. I've never thought about the concept of time. And I need some time to think about that. That's a pretty big thing. Like, how do you give an image the concept of time? We always talk in architecture like, oh, I want the trees to defoliate in the winter. Like, okay, that's obvious. But the ability to show imperfections, because we're always focused on it has to be perfect. You look at any modern architecture, get the people out of the photo, it's perfect. But this idea of, I don't want to spend time remembering that the scuff goes at the bottom of the wall, or that the scuff on the floor is behind the chairs. Like, that's something that I think could be, I don't know how to get to it in video. Like, that's a complicated thing, but in a still image, to make it appear natural, it seems like that's a very useful workflow, so that the image is not perfect, so that it doesn't distract. And I get these questions from Enscape all the time. Our renderings don't look good. Could you help us? And we'll open up a session and they're like, well, look, your lighting, sometimes you need to tweak it and add studio lights. Your materials don't have bump. They don't have reflectivity. They're bouncing. The material for your wood floor looks like a quartz countertop. It looks like plastic. Okay, in graphics. But I've never thought about this concept of time.
But that's also
make things imperfect.
I think it's also like in the hands of the creator, and that's why you have, great visualizers. And I mean, I don't want to compare in this way, but I think there's artistry behind this, and behind this art of storytelling. And it's obviously tools and technological advancements are like the pace at which things are moving at this moment is crazy, and we're all trying to catch up. No matter whether we're even if you're behind the scenes at Chaos or wherever you are, you're trying to catch up with technological advancement. Same thing happened in cinema, cinema in a way is democratized because you have more tools, you can create a film with less resources. But what is truly remains the same challenge is the artistry itself, like your own understanding of how to communicate and portray a vision. And I'm not sure that we need to look for shortcuts there. And it's my deep belief that that's somewhere where no AI enhancement tool can, replace the fact that you also need to have an understanding of,
We're still going to judge the thing that the AI does when you want to.
Absolutely.
It's a stuffy tool. I want to be a little more stuffy. But I like your comparison to cinematography, because the set has to describe not just in terms of geometry and lighting materials. It has to have that patina, or it doesn't tell a story. Yoda's lair needs to have patina. The Millennium Falcon needs to have patina. Millennium Falcon is not perfect and scuffless.
Phil, have you seen the masterclass that Nikos does?
On what? Sorry?
The masterclasses that Nikos does?
No.
Oh, you should check those out.
It's going to be a time vampire. I'll get sucked in.
Oh, 100%. Like, Ludo, have you seen him too?
No, not.
No. Obviously, the community has seen him here, but very amazing classes where he goes really in depth about a lot of the same things: cinematography, color. Like that's a whole nother thing is lighting. Like in addition to materials, like composition, lighting, materials, like those are all.
Like,
and he video games do a really good job too. Like, wherever there's ramps and things, there's always scuffs on it. There's always that patina. It's hard to do when you pick a perfect material. It's hard to do an Enscape.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry. I mean, and you say that, but I want to challenge that in the sense that, with the wizardry that we've done in the years, that's where V-Ray came in and Vintage came in, is that we use Enscape as a base, but then we go and we went to V-Ray. We brought the cameras from Enscape to V-Ray, and we were Max at the time, and we animate our objects, and we do rocket taking off and things like that. But it's still, funny enough, the plate is still all Enscape at the end of the day. So it's how you use it. It's not. It really is important that I'm not asking AI to replace anything. I'm asking AI to help me speed things up, not the other way around. I think the human factor is still not replaceable at this point, and sure, one day it's going to be called singularity, and then we'll have different problem at that point. But in the meantime, I think really it's allowing me to be able to be more flexible. Like Kelly brought up, is the fact that movies are done faster. Well, they're done faster and cheaper, but at the same time, if the story is not there, who cares? Who cares how fast they were done? If the story's not there, who cares that it cost $330 million to make? There's no story. We don't like the movie. We're not going to go to it, right? It's not going to make the box office better because you spent 330, but it's not. But at the same time, I was at FMX earlier this year, and there was a panel about a Pixar show that I'm not going to say all the things that I want to support. I support it anyway. But there's a show on Disney Plus that showed up, and the art director did a presentation about how he had to create 10 episodes, which was the value of 5 movies, of Pixar movies, and he had a quarter of the budget of one movie to do 10 episodes. And it's quite interesting how he went he's like, we spend our time on the human factor. We spend the time on the story. and we spend all the money on the story. And then we use a very, very cheap medium that we made it very cleverly put together to make it look pretty. By all sorts of imagination, that thing looks gorgeous. And when you know how much it costs to make it, you're like, wow, okay, we can make things look cheap. But at the same time, they really when they got the challenge, they're like, okay, where do we put the money? They said we got to have a story that people can attach to and relate to. So when we create all that stuff in architecture, I love what happens when I see those images. But when I go to other companies, there's a few popular one in New York, there's a few popular one in Germany and Europe that do visualization entirely like the Media Lab does. When you look at their images, they're selling you an experience. They're not selling you a building. The building is part of it, and which, by all sorts of imagination, obviously the building is the actor, the main actor. But if I put a white background behind Tom Cruise, nothing happens, right? What makes Tom Cruise look good is all the crap that's happened behind him, right? All the train falling off the cliff and the explosion and him being on the plane, flying off the plane, the plane wing. And
Ludo, we've already talked about people. There's somebody else, and now we're talking about Tom Cruise. We might have to get legal involved here and get.
But the point I'm trying to make is that you can put an actor with nothing, and it just looks like an actor. It looks like a person, but you can put an actor with all the environment and all the stuff behind him, and suddenly now you have a story, you have something that holds it, you have an experience, and really the design. I feel personally that the design that we're trying to sell is the experience that people will have when they go into space. So saying that I'm using red and orange and blues to do the whatever I'm using for my space is one thing. But saying how it's going to feel when I'm in that orange, blue, and red space, it's a totally different thing that you're like, okay, now I want to be there, right? We had this client that wanted to do a broadcast room in I kid you not, it was a 20 by 12 or something in that space room, which, trust me, when it comes to broadcast, this is like asking for miracles, and the miracle is the miracle, right? And they were like, we want to have all these equipment.
There wasn't enough space to do what the space needed to do.
There's no way. They wanted all this equipment, but then using Inkscape and VR and stuff like that, we were able to put them in the space with the equipment, and they're like, well, I can't walk anywhere. That's what we're trying. But now they could feel it. They could be there for it, right? And actually, you know what? I can't remember, and I'm sorry I'm doing this right now, but does Envision does VR experiences?
Vantage does.
But that's why. Okay, Envision does. Here's another wish list. That Envision allows me to do a VR experience, because that's part where I can start moving things live with the client and then have the client really respond to what's happening in the space that are there. It's so funny how a 40-foot wall sounds like mundane to people, but when you put them in VR, like, okay, that's too tall, right? And some people are like, I want a 40-foot tall. You're like, dude, do you know what you're asking for? No, obviously they don't. Which they have an impression of what it is in their head, and until they see it, they won't believe that it doesn't make sense. But then when you show them in the VR, I think all this real-time stuff really goes a long way to tell that story of.
Part of it is it perspective, or is it because you're seeing
the story that you're telling is the perspective of the space? Yeah, sure. I mean, it's the experience of the space. A 40-foot wall won't do you anything good. It's a bad experience.
Yeah, but if it's this tall, a 40-foot wall doesn't mean anything. But if I'm seeing it in stereo and it's in scale to me, it seems like
then you're like, this is stupid. You go, that's enormous. That's gigantic. There's no reason for that wall to exist. Make it 20 feet, I'll be happy now. And then you just reduce it 20 feet, and they're like, oh, this is perfect. This is exactly what I had in mind. Yes, obviously. Okay. But the point, it's about the experience, I think, and I think that Envision is helping grow that experience and develop that experience even more. Instead of getting out of that coldness, you go into that experience mode, and then you can sell really a design, an idea, an iteration, an option. You can really exploit that. And I want to just, little parentheses, I saw a question about, do you need to be a 3D artist? No, you don't need to be a 3D artist. If I haven't made that clear, yes, I am one. It's hard for me to say, well, I've used so many tools at this point. I'm really agnostic when it comes to tools. I just jump in one, I just go with it because I've seen them all. That said, you don't need to be a 3D artist for this. You just need to be an architect. And architects have a very good sense of space. They really understand space. They really understand design. and telling them time is not something that's like what, they really understand that because they understand their building will be used for the next 40 years. Therefore, their building has to be working for the next 40 years, so they have to understand what happens to it over 40 years. The climate, the change, the weather, the whatever, the people. When you have 1 million people walking in the space in one day, what does that mean to you, right? It means a big, and I'm using an airport to just give a very, very big scale here more than anything else, but people have to understand how that works and what it does, just what happens next, right? So architects have a good sense, maybe not as developed, but they have a very good sense of time and what the space, how the space is going to be used, where the scratches are going to be. They know exactly where the scratch. That's why they put all these metal plates around the walls to be able to avoid the damn suitcase on the wall, right? It's
Right.
all the little I'm sorry, the thing new. I'm tired.
The metal
Yeah,
corner. Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, yeah,
exactly. So anyway, the point I'm trying to make is they understand that they get that. So Envision gives them just a little more tool to just like, oh, now I feel like I'm there. One thing that it does, Envision, that Enscape can do, or can't is a very strong word. It's harder to do because of the tool Enscape is supporting, right? Right,
Yeah.
Reddit, Rhino, and so on and so forth. Is when you have a building is the actor, it's a main actor, or a room, it's the main actor, and you do need special light to make the scene look better. I'm a lighter by trade, and when you have an actor on the scene, the actor always have different light than the rest of the scene. Sure, the light affects him, but there's still a global light on them. There's still a key light or a fill light that comes in to just make them brighter or whatever. There's something to make them prettier with a nice rim light or whatever. You have to think that way when you do building. So even though I'm supposed to just have 6 light in here, well, sometimes to get a good render, you'll need to create extra lights and stuff, and that's where Envision comes in because it's easier to do those lights there. It's much easier, much more powerful to do the lighting there to get you something that looks more
natural.
More natural, yes.
You're describing things in very cinematographic, photographic terms. So like adding a corner mold, that I can't wait for the architect to do that and render it in Enscape. So you'll build that in another tool.
Yeah.
If you're trying to show that. Are there any in terms of cinematography and the way that you're describing your approach and adding an element of time, what movies do you love that illustrate this? If I want to watch a movie and really get into that.
Okay.
Like I want to be able to see this and experience it in a way that is not technical. I want to get into the absorption of.
I'm an action thriller sci-fi guy, so just don't expect a lot of life is beautiful moment here. A beautiful life, whatever that movie is.
Yeah.
My movies are here's interesting. The Incredibles from Pixar. I think
my gosh.
It's in my top 10. It's not my number one, but it's in my top 10. And I think it's what I liked about it is I was able to connect with the parents. I remember that moment that got me teared up a little bit is when I can't remember her name. The mom goes and she's upset and she's tired and she's got the boxes. Like, this is the last box, and she's unpacking the house and stuff like that. And so after 3 years, we finally got the last box, and she has a baby trying to do the dishes. I felt there was a connection with her that I felt like I was her for a minute, in the sense of like where she's at in the space, right? And where I finally got my last task done, type of thing, right? So I felt very connected to this, and I think the whole movie is about connection to people and stuff, and I like that a lot about that movie. Sure, I'm going to the animated thing, but even in animation, and that's what I like about Pixar, is they take the time to really push the limit of how you connect to them. Next one, Usual Suspect. Unfortunately, we're going to talk. Usual Suspect is, I'm a guy who, like, within 5 minutes, 15 minutes, I can tell you exactly what's going to happen in the end, because I get the I've seen so many of those. At some point, you kind of know. And Usual Suspect when Kevin Spacey start walking normal, I'm like, oh, I never saw it. I tried to figure out the whole time who Kaiser Sose was. I'm like, oh my God, when he got me, that means they got me because I never. They really when Brian did that movie, he really did a way to get around the movie and really get these things so well done that you're in the movie. You can't figure out what's happening. You're just so invested, right? So I really enjoyed that movie for that reason because of all the character development and all the stuff, and then the surprise at the end. That, like I said, usually I know right away from the beginning. I'm like, oh, this is what's going to happen next. But in this case, when Kevin Spacey starts walking, I'm like, oh my god, I totally missed that. I totally missed that one 100%. You know, I didn't have any clue. I even looked at his character as being one of that guy at some point. I was like, that doesn't make sense. I mean, you know, that would be too easy. And I'm like, but I was thinking about the end cap character, not the character playing an end cap, I guess. The Matrix, the first one. I want to say everybody the first one. I'm recorded. I'm recorded the first one.
You got lost.
I think what I loved about that one was the story again. The story was powerful. It was well told. It was attaching everything. The visual effects probably helped me feeling even more close to that movie at the time. I was at South to Match back then. I watched the movie over and over. I got the chance to meet John Gaeta, the one that created the bullet time effect. And I had the chance to meet this guy, and it really made even better for me in my head, you know, because I mean the guy who came up with the idea and stuff. But I think it's about the story. I think that's where the other Matrix totally lost is the story. They just became about VFX, and that's all.
The story
the story totally lost, and they tried again when they brought it back not too long ago, a couple of years back. When they brought it back, they tried to go back to the story.
Note to legal, we now upset the Wachowski brothers. So just keeping the list.
Wachowski sibling. Come on.
Siblings, that's right.
Anyway,
I feel
I don't know if it tells you enough about my movies. There's more obviously Star Wars.
No, it seems like the ability to be absorbed and not distracted, to be able to suspend disbelief. The sky should not be perfect and cloudless. The sky should have a little airplane in there because then it's not distracting. I don't know if you guys have seen Ludo. Have you seen?
Yeah.
There's a Japanese manga series that's been created in real life down in South Africa called One Piece.
Oh yeah.
Yes, I saw a couple of on Netflix. Yeah.
Are what you're describing. Yeah. There's this patina, and like they've been there and they've been weathered, and it's amazing. Their set designs are fantastic, but this is a different approach than just rendering.
Well, if you look and talk about patina and stuff, age. If you look at Star Wars 4, 5, 6, it was all patina. Everything was old. Everything's been used. Blade Runner. Everything is used in Blade Runner. I mean, it's so funny. I had an architect that kept referencing Blade Runner, but the part we didn't understand is that it was Blade Runner before Blade Runner was. Meaning, you wanted to say before Blade Runner became all all this destroyed and old and overused and so on. There was a moment when everything was perfect in that world, and I want that world. Right? He was trying to reach out for that world. It took us a minute, but we finally figured out what he was looking for. But the point I'm trying to make is that Blade Runner brings that age. Star Wars 4, 5, 6. But what happened with 1, 2, 3? The freaking kid running down the damn field was so perfect that nobody connected to it.
Yeah.
Nobody cared about the kid running in the field, right? And the kid running in the field, nobody cared about it, right?
It's too perfect.
But then, why did we all connect to Rogue One? Why? Because Garrett took the time to come back and say, you know what got me into Star Wars is I felt like I was there, right? I was a fly on the wall watching the damn show. And when you have Rogue One, Rogue One brought you back to that world. Everything is overused. There's a part where it's clean, but you can see that same scene of the clean room in another different room. It's been overused and it's it's old and stuff. But it's the same room. You know, it's the same room. It's just but you see the age, you see it's been the space and the environment, the experience. So it's really about the experience. I'm not saying Star Wars the first 4 are good.
All Envision. Yeah. We have this concept that it's about better storytelling.
Yes, exactly. And I think
the entire story arc is how to tell a better story. And
Envision is enabling us by using it is enabling us to get that point. By all.
Yeah. I did want to ask, hey Anna, what's your favorite feature?
Well, that's Again, a hard question, but I think my favorite feature are the sensors that we recently launched in Envision
Mm-hmm.
with update 1,
Mm.
which was launched like 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
Why it's my favorite feature? It just works super cool because you attach this proximity sensor to an object, say you attach it to a door, and then you basically animate that door based on the proximity to other objects. So if I approach the door with the camera, like walking through it, it will open automatically. Or if a walking character approaches the door, it will open. It's just super cool and yeah, adds that extra touch of storytelling.
I'd say an extra little bit of realism there.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to be respectful of everybody's time, and I know we're getting close. I know, Ludo, you have a hard stop too, so I know we could keep talking for hours, and I definitely, like, if everybody's up for it, definitely want to get you on another one. Obviously, I know you're
Absolutely.
super busy, so we gotta schedule that one out. But definitely would love to get you on another one to where we talk about like the storytelling piece of it, if you're up for it.
Give me a second, guys. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'll be right back.
Yeah, no worries. We can jump to Q&A too. I know there's some
He's
questions
going
about
to start
Envision.
scheduling the next one. He just went to check his calendar.
Yeah.
Hey, Anna, we have a
the team, or maybe we scared him and he ran away. He's like, while you check the Q&A, sorry, Josh, I'm going to steal this moment because I just thought like we were talking about like more complex workflows, like big projects, but the reality is that we have a lot of architects that work also in smaller teams. So we have smaller architectural practices. And I'm just wondering, I suppose that for a lot of those users that are used to Enscape, but not necessarily have used Envision, maybe have some resistance and barriers to jump into Envision, to explore it, like maybe even, I could even call them fears, because of a workflow that they're used to, and maybe because they don't really understand the value and they don't want to they feel resistant to test it. So in that context, like, what would you say to someone that maybe it comes from such a background, like it's smaller studio style, like what would be the benefit of Envision? Why should they not be afraid to test it? And it's a question both for you, Ani, and for Ludo, whoever wants to take it.
I'm going to give Ana some time.
Yeah, please.
Like I said, for me, Envision was that missing piece of the puzzle for the whole chaos ecosystem. There's no reason to be afraid. If anything, if you're in Inkscape and other tools, things, what you're gonna get out of Envision is, yes, you're gonna have to let go of another one to pay for this one, I guess, or something like that, budget wise. But regardless of that, what you're gonna bring is an ecosystem that you understand. It's something that is seamless to an extent to move from one to the other, and then it'll bring you the capabilities to do what you want without having to be restrained to Inkscape or anything like that. I think it's in restraint, just meaning moving people, moving object, and lighting properties, all the stuff we talked about today. I think really at the end of the day is to be able to go to the next level. And Envision is a great place to start to go and allow you to be in that space. You have a lot of wish item in your head. You're like, oh, I wish I could have done that. I wish I could have done this. When you look at your renders, Envision is there to help you grasp some of those wish items and get those access to those. I think that's where there's nothing to be afraid of. I think personally, we obviously I talk of experience. I always jump head first and ask question later. But regardless of that, I think I want to tell people I think it's a safe space to go and give it a shot. And learning curve. Yes, I'm not going to tell you there's no learning curve. That's not true. That said, what I explained was really about you go in, you can start using it without having to learn all the tools yet. And as you grow within it, you'll be able, and within a couple of weeks or whatever, you'll be able to use a lot more tools that you were not able to use 2 weeks earlier. But at least now you're seeing the bigger picture. You're getting more. Now your wish item that you saw in the previous render, you're hitting them as you go. I think it's a great adventure to take on and give it a shot for sure. There's no doubt in my mind for that.
don't be afraid to be a wizard and not stay.
Yeah,
home.
exactly. Have fun with it, right?
Wizard, it's for everyone.
Exactly.
Anna, do you wanna share your point of view as well?
Well, yeah, and I will share my point of view as an architect and not as a Chaos employee, if you will. And the thing is that it has always been super difficult to create any kind of animations because this usually involves a steep learning curve, like learning a new tool, and it would be a professional one, which allows you to actually animate. So I assume that this has always been a really difficult task for any architect. And with Envision, things are so easy. Like you can, yes, there is some learning curve, as Ludo said, but it's like a day or two, and you will know exactly what you're doing, and you will get more and more creative. So yeah, I encourage everyone to just try it and see what you guys can render and achieve with it. That's
I,
it.
I gotta say, there's a 7-day trial on that one, right? A seven or 30-day trial.
It's a 30-day trial.
30 trial. Okay. Well, it's one of the few that I think 30 days is too much. You don't need that much to figure out if you want to use it or not. That's one of the few tools that I've tried in the past that after 30 days, I remember back in the days, I'm going to use a tool that's not existent anymore. But Modo being a tool from Foundry back in the days, 30 days, you needed more than that to figure out what to do with that tool. Really, how you could use, and it was a great tool. I'm not saying it was a bad tool. I'm just saying learning it was more than 30 days. So when you got into it 30 days, you're like, that's useless. I need more time. Envision is one of the tools. I think 30 days is plenty of time. You got way more than you need to figure out if you want to use it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you guys. One of the questions that we did have in the chat was, are PBR and SBS textures supported in Envision?
Not yet, I think.
PBR materials, like you can use the different material maps. Obviously, the Cosmos library has the maps that come with it, but SBSAR files, the substance file formats.
I have not tested on my site, so I can't deny or confirm the use of it.
Another one we have is, can proximity sensors be used for lift simulation, but in a timely manner, like how an actual lift opens and closes?
Well,
I suppose, yeah.
I think, yeah, they could.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
for sliding the doors, there is a slide sensor that allows you to configure sliding doors behavior. But then if you want the lift to also like depart
curve
from that floor, maybe link it to a path or use variations. There are various ways you can actually solve this.
Yeah, I think so. I got excited right before I left for vacation at the time, a couple of weeks ago. I heard about the sensor widget. I was very excited. I can't wait to use it because my brain went to, well, I'm sure they didn't think about the lift, but I think I can figure out the lift. Like how can I make the lift work? So I'm looking forward to use it.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I really love about it. It's like the capability is there. It's like just because like if you think it, you can do it in there. That's the I don't even know the word for it. That's the really cool feature of it. Like I remember trying to set up a phasing animation to start. I'm like, oh, I bet I could do a phasing animation with variations. Just set this up here and then this down here and then put it on a timeline. And now with the slide sensors too, it's like you got slide, rotate, and scale as well. So it's like I had a model where it was like the rotating entrance door. I was like, oh, I could have somebody walk up to that and then the door spins and then they could walk through that as well. Like it just worked. So there's so many possibilities with those proximity sensors. So Anna, like you were saying, I think that's one of probably my favorite features too, is the proximity sensors.
Yeah, Josh glitched. He's in the Matrix. So the requests, Josh, just to recap some of the things Ludo's asked for, like maybe some AI tools. What were the other requests?
It was more AI integration than tools. I mean, they're tools
AI
obviously,
integration,
but
right?
integration of within the tool themselves. So having a randomizer using AI instead of just a randomizer
Oh,
using
yeah.
math. That's what I'm looking for. It's more again, it's just to facilitate my life to get or it's
Yep.
one that goes and changes the textures for me to make the texture older or younger, whatever, to get to point B. What was the other thing? I can't remember. We talked too much.
That's right.
I talked too much.
Do we
No,
have
the
any?
randomizer. I like that. Just to tweak things, just to give it that. You don't want to have to go around and pull all the chairs out.
Yeah.
You just want to tweak
Yeah.
them. Mm.
Do we have any of the questions that are left unanswered? That's what I'm wondering. There was the question of like, do you have to be an architect to use Envision?
No,
Necessary.
I answered that earlier. I said, no, you don't need to. I mean, it's obviously being a 3D artist makes it hard for me to say you don't need to because I'm one of them. But arguably, I teach, which little segue there. I teach a lot to the architect how to use the stuff and how to use these things. And all you need is somebody to help you. You need, as an architect, you just need to know that you're supported. And I totally makes sense. There's anywhere else you want to be supported, right? So as long as you got somebody that's there to support you and get there, I think it's always good, and that's my point to the segue to the support. I think the support is amazing, and the people on the forum and stuff are there. They're attentive, they're listening, and they get to do that stuff for you guys and to help you. If you're a small architectural firm with 3 or 4 guys in there, you have the support of the support of the forums and the chaos group. I have no doubt about that. I do like their support by all means. Which can I do a little plug real fast for a position that we have open?
Yes.
Because we're running out of time. I want to do it. We're looking for visualization artist trainer to help us do a. It's going to be the middleman between the architect and us. We're getting very busy, and we're getting busy. We've been very busy for the last 3 years, and I'm running out of space to be able to train people. So I need somebody who's dedicated to do this, to create tutorials, videos, session series for the architect to help them get to point B. So anyway, if you're interested, go to the Corgan site and go to looking for job. Look for Media Lab. When you look in the posting, look for Media Lab. There'll be 2 postings. One is for Singapore team. I'm good there. I just need somebody for the architect for the architect trainer to. We're looking for one. It's been a long search. We're looking for the perfect unicorn. So if you're listening or about to listen the non-live version, by all means, please reach out. We'll be more than happy to listen and check you guys out and see what we can do.
Thank you so
Sorry.
much, Ludo.
Thank you. That was my
little. Amazing. I mean, it's since you're looking for that gem person, and with that one unique individual, it makes sense to also use this channel for this. I think we lost Josh, unfortunately, or he just wanted to give like a hard stop to this because he feels like we're never going to stop discussing. I want to say thanks on behalf of Chaos Campus and everyone that joined us today. Thanks, Lou, thanks, Phil, thanks, Annie, and Josh, and also to Tio, who is the Chaos Campus moderator, and he's helping us in the background. This was an amazing conversation. We're also going to create some short snippets that we'll be sharing out of this because there were amazing insights that were shared. So super happy with the discussion. Thanks once again, everyone. And let's keep creating beautiful live shows and moments like this and exchange knowledge and inspiration.
Well, thank you for the opportunity, guys. I really appreciate it. It was a fun first time experience with this kind of thing. So I really appreciate it. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Ludo.
Yeah.
And looking forward to more.
Live discussion. But as Phil said, it would be also nice to have those live. So this is like a wish to us all to like soon meet live and actually have those discussions live.
Yep.
Cool. Thank you, everyone. And we shall close this session with this. Thanks, everyone. Ciao, ciao. Have a beautiful day.
Thank you too. Bye, everyone.